Okay, moving on to our next Hive presentation. When people ask, well, who's doing circular economy, which is a question I hear all the time. Who are the pioneers, the leaders? A few names often come up for me. Folks like, in terms of large corporates, folks like IKEA, Philips, and Decathlon in recent years have personally become a personal favourite and a company that are top of mind for me when I think about leaders on circular economy. And at its most transformational, Decathlon is reframing what it does from selling sports equipment to making sports accessible in the most sustainable way. But how do you get there from today, from 2025? Well, Decathlon's using the Three Horizons model to imagine, design and create near-term and more reimagined solutions to help with this transition. And now I'm honoured to invite Charles Cambianica, Head of Product Design at Decathlon, to walk us through it.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you today. And at Decathlon, we are not much used to speak and show what we're doing. So I'm very honored today that I can show you a bit of what the teams are doing. And to give you a bit of insights about our context, we live in a society that loves sports, and we have sports all around us. We consume sports 24/24. Even myself, I can surprise watching Simone Biles in the evening in my bed. So sports has become something very important in our lives. But the reality behind is that even though sports is everywhere, movement is going down. And we see some very spectacular numbers about our kids. And I'm a dad of 2 young girls, and I saw those statistics like how kids have lost almost 30% of their cardiovascular capacities over the last 50 years because we move less and less. And so we need to act for that. And I recently read a study here in the UK saying like 70% of the kids spend less time outside than high security prisoner. So like we need to move for this. And that's exactly the mission of Decathlon. Our job every day is to make sports closer to people. And we have been starting 50 years ago as a retail company. So simple idea, 10 sports under the same roof. And we have open store closer to people to give access. And since then, we have moved on to become a designer of product with the idea that we need to master our value chain, that first we can make sport equipment more affordable from a price perspective. And here you have the example of a backpack that costs €3. So we have created tremendous breakthrough into how to build products, but also to innovate in order to make sports more fun and more easy, in order to invite more people in. And so our vision is to move people through the wonders of sports. And as designer, our job is to stick the more there. More people, more people into sports. And this eventually has led us into a tremendous success as a company, and also a tremendous responsibility, because today we produce almost 1.2 billion products a year. So in terms of sustainability, we have a strong responsibility about how do we design those products. And the last 3 years, we have keep on growing by 17% our business, while we have achieved to reduce by 13% our absolute total carbon emission. So it's the first time in our history that we have inverted the curves between keep on growing the business, but also reducing the total footprint of Decathlon. So that's what I want to share today with you. A couple of things we do with the design teams and how things work into our blue box, as we said. Decathlon is a vertical company. We have from design to retail, all activities and supply chain in the middle. So how do we use design in order to create more sustainability? And I have a short video to show you a bit our facilities. So the idea of Decathlon is that we are user-centric. So we have creation centers that are always close to where people are practicing. So close to La Rochelle on the seaside, we have everything for sailing. In the mountains, close to Chamonix, we have the outdoor department, a couple of facilities in Lille, and as well some in the world, in China, in India. So the principle is that we want to be close to users to truly understand how they practice, to be more relevant for them. And our job in Lille is also to synchronize the teams. And so, while designing, we have 3 different reasons of applying design. The first one is how do we impact our day-to-day product creation, what is for the next season, the shorter term. Then we have projects to supercharge the business and create research for tomorrow. And we have Horizon 3, and I'm gonna start there, about how do we think the future consumption of sports, how do we explore about how to become more circular, and what needs to be changed in order to make it happen. And so the simple question in Horizon 3 is how to make circular business more cool than just buying products. And for this, we need to understand the customer journey, what is their experience in order to create more value out of a different system. And so this is probably the most complicated thing to drive in the company, because when you speak about long-term projects, transformation of the business, then it means that the ROI is not for tomorrow. And so the more cash which is injected in those projects, the most difficult it is. And so the way we have set up the project is to make it open projects. So we have a small amount of people in the advanced design team that holds on the project, and then we make them collaborative. We invite the people that wants to connect to the project, and so it's more agile, it's less consuming resource, and it helps us to fuel the research in a more easy way. And what we do as well is, as I said, we have multiple design centers. So we use those projects also as connector between the different creative teams. So we assemble teams of people coming from all the creation center together on a sprint. And so we create the good condition that this is also a team building moment, a cool moment. And so that's how we connect the energy to make it cost not so much money, and that we can do it more often. And so in terms of methodologies on those sprints, we have a 4-step method. The step 1 is what we call the user safari, and there we want to understand the journey. So we have developed methodologies of doing movies with user. And as an example, the last one we did was about people that don't go camping but wish to go camping, and we wanted to understand why they don't go camping. And so we have given them cameras and €1,000 to get equipped. And the deal was film everything, film the discussion in the kitchen, and then give us the camera back. And so we look at the movies, we understand what are the reasons, what are the concerns, why they are not practicing. And out of all this, we do what we call the emotion timeline, which is to map in their journey what was great, what was not okay, what are the different steps. And then we understand how we can change and create the journey, that then we can create an experience that has more value than just selling the product. And so those emotion timelines are turned into scenarios, and the scenarios become prototypes of complete experience. And that's how we build circular experiences as prototypes that then we can test. And so here are 2 examples of the outcome. And so when we worked on the camping, we wanted to understand what is needed as a service, and we have created the platform which is called Enter Outside, where we have understood by studying the experience what is needed for people to come and to engage into camping, and what would be the perfect circular tent, and what are the technical requirements when you want to engage the tent into a circular journey. And the 9% is actually what we have achieved on circular business with the bicycles for the kids. So what I wanted to say is that exploring what could be the journey also build with the business the confidence to test where we feel we can go. The second reason is about to push the limits of our process, and 80% of the carbon footprint of Decathlon is made by the product we produce. And so we set some projects where we want to explore how to reduce the emissions. And I'm going to share two case studies with you and start with the project 52. So those exploratory projects, they start with a quest. We have a quest that we give to our designers, and then we develop research around it. So the idea of project 52 is for 52 years of petrol left. And so the quest we started with is, what if there was no more oil, and how we would produce apparel without any drop of oil. And so we have assembled teams where we had product designers, but also material engineers, process engineers, and they work together and they study the complete experience of the product from the materials. And we wanted to find natural materials with no oil in, but still we are doing sports equipment, so we need to have breathability, stretchability. So we have evaluated the materials in regards to their oil consumption and their performance, technical performance. But we have also studied the factories and the energetic mix that is used to power the factories, and as well as the shipment. And that's how we have created those outfits where there is not any single drop of oil in. And what we have learned by doing this is that even though there is no oil in any of those clothing, it consumes only 24% less oil than a standard equipment. Because there is so much oil around in the farming of the material, in the transportation, in the process. But the good thing is that we have reduced the carbon footprint of those clothes by 80%. So somehow we learned that getting rid of petrol is very difficult, but that pursuing that goal can help us also to learn how to reduce CO2 footprints tremendously. And out of those learnings, we have created and re-injected the knowledge into some of our products. And there is the minimal edition for trekking and camping, where we have reduced by about 25% the CO2 footprint. The tent is actually 15%. There is a sleeping bag, which is over 30%. So what we have learned in terms of dyeing process, in terms of material design, then is available for the many. And this is actually product that you can see at the moment. The prototype I showed before and those one in our store in Shurike, they are exposed this week. The second project I wanted to share with you, second quest, is how can we optimize with generative AI. And back in 2019, when we saw those new way of designing coming, we wanted to test and we wanted to understand how can we use it to reduce our carbon footprint. And so the first challenge we set to ourselves was on a racing bike. And what we wanted to do is a bicycle in metallic base that is as light as a carbon fiber one. And so we have worked together with Autodesk. With Autodesk Fusion 360, and we have used all the data we have in our conception, but also everything we know from the use study and from the load cases for the bikes. And we have achieved to create a fork that was printed in titanium that was as light as carbon fiber. So in a way, success, but it cost 15,000 euros for one fork. So not so aligned with our business model, not so feasible for tomorrow. But we learned also something very interesting is that with this technology, we can also master a lot better the behavior of the structure, the flexibility in some direction and the rigidity in some other. And so eventually, this project helped us to inject all the knowledge into that project of the fins, where the performance fins are made also with carbon fiber. Here we could achieve to reduce by 50% the material consumption, to better master the behavior of the fin, and at the end of the day to produce it for the many at a low price. And so that's how research at Decathlon goes into production, and that we try always to have those quests feeding our business. And then Horizon 1, so this is how to impact business tomorrow morning. And there, to move on, we have been creating design labs, and especially eco-design lab. Actually, eco-design started in Decathlon in 2011. 2011 is the year where we have been starting to measure everything we do. And since then, the next year, 2012, it was the first eco-design product out of our factories. And we have some designers that have been really committed to eco-design since then. And here's the example of Alex, is our leader at Eco-Design Lab that worked on those football equipments. And very often we had the thing like, but eco-design costs a lot of money, it makes the product more expensive, it's difficult. And we have plenty of examples in our teams of people that have been increasing sales, reducing the retail price, and tremendously as well the CO2 impact. So there you see plus 200% in sales, minus €5, minus 63% in CO2. And there, the Eco-Design Lab has been developing a methodology to analyze our portfolio, our offer. And what they figure out is that out of the 13,000 reference we have, 200 of them are accounting for 30% of the CO2. And so the idea is to focus there. And what we do is to map, so the canvas size is a 10,000 ton of CO2, where we map the 200 biggest CO2 emitter product. And we try to assemble them in terms of process to figure out which one are the biggest and what impact they could have on some other if we find a solution to treat them. And then we try to cross-fertilize the solutions in order to tackle the challenge. And here's an example of the backpack where we had already an eco-design backpack. So we had already reduced the consumption. And by combining footwear technology with backpack technology, we have prototypes today that are around minus 30% in terms of CO2. So the labs are supporting the business to cross-fertilize technology across the 2,000 different category of product we have at Decathlon. And so we have achieved today to have about 50 to 55% of our portfolio that have received an eco-design approach now. And I'm speaking a lot about numbers, and here's another learning we had at Decathlon. If we want to move forward, we need KPIs, and we need to have KPIs for our designers. And what you can see there is a dashboard that we have been creating for minimal waste design. So minimal waste design means that when we design apparel, there is always waste when you have the cutting process for the pattern of the clothes. And so we measure the waste, and we work with the designer to flag and target how much waste reduction we want. And since 5 years, we have achieved minus 35% of waste production while fixing those targets. And beside the dashboard and the targets, we have developed tools that the designers can see real time when they are designing the pattern making and the waste management. So when a designer is working on the shape, he can see how much waste this shape will produce by the tiling effect and the tessellation that will be made in production. And this is a tool that I've been worked together with university in Canada. And so what's next for us? We have a 2050 net zero commitment. 2050 is really far away in a really long time. I have no idea how we're gonna get there, but what's for sure is that we want to be really optimistic, because we have learned over the last 5 years that eco-design can be very fun with the workshop that we have been doing, that it's a super challenge for designers. And we find solution. We want this to be creative, and probably what we want to change is to make it more open. As said, by cross-fertilizing between the different process and the different team at Decathlon, we have created fantastic project and fantastic results. And so for the next year, we wish that we have a more open design at Decathlon, that we work more with the outside world to make that challenge happen. Let's see where we will be in 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. I feel very fortunate to be, have a front row seat. That's a metaphor. I mean, we're all witnessing great insights there, because you said you don't speak about it that much. And I think hearing how it works on the inside, how your teams actually work together to bite off different parts of the challenge, I think is amazing to hear. But also, I think that dose of reality that you sort of peppered throughout there. Earlier you said about Horizon 3, the ROI is not tomorrow. I think it's important to remind ourselves some of this, especially, I live in the world of circular business models about repair and rental and things like that. It's good to remind ourselves where they sit in terms of that transition to the decathlon of the future. We've had loads of questions, so I'm gonna try and race through a few of them. Most popular question on the Slido: do you see the benefits of using Gen AI to reduce carbon footprint as greater than the negative impact it has on the environment, e.g. water usage?
Honestly, it's difficult to answer because on generative design, and if we speak about Fusion 360, today we have one project in store because the manufacturing process is not yet mature to use Gen AI. Most of the structure should be 3D printed to fully use the Gen AI technology. The fins it's a very specific process of fabrication, and so it was really adapted there. And to me, we will see a lot more impact when the manufacturing process will be more mature, or high-scale 3D printing price would have dropped down. So it's difficult to say for us for now.
Okay. Interesting one about the sort of governance, I guess it is. How much harder would your job be if Decathlon was not a family-owned business? Are shareholder businesses as concerned by sustainability and circular design? Above my pay grade is a typical answer in this situation.
No, but it's. I mean, we really like to see sustainable design and affordability as two different faces of the same coin, and so our profitability comes from high volumes, and we're convinced that if you use less resource, less materials, less energy, you can create more affordable products. So I think family owned or not, I don't know. What's for sure is that we are supported by our shareholder into this, and they have invested.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're not a non-profit, are you? I mean, you're still. There's lots of the numbers you shared were about growth, really.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's still part of the picture, family owned or not.
Yeah, I mean, we are family owned, and we are not. I mean, we are a business, so we need to do business.
Do you think the approach you're developing at Decathlon could be replicated and scaled at larger sports brands like Nike? What are the limitations?
Wow. I'm sure they do great things as well at Nike. To me, the entire industry has to move forward, and I'm glad if I can be inspiring for them. They are inspiring for us, for sure, in many cases. So
that's interesting. Is there specific things that you've been inspired by from looking at a company like Nike and what they've done in this space?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a few years ago, they launched what they called Space IP, which was sort of a vision for sustainable footwear. And there was a lot of the thinking behind, where I thought well, super interesting, and it raises up questions to us.
Yeah, sure. How much of your sustainability story do you share with consumers? Is it a selling point for them?
Difficult question. Probably that we don't tell much or enough, but we also know that a sustainable product does not sell more because it's sustainable. So the public or our public does not really respond yet. It's a plus, and if they have the choice at the same performance and the same price, they would choose the sustainable one. But it's not the reason why to buy others. And so,
is it price, performance, convenience?
Yeah, price performance is definitely something that is super important, and that's why when I spoke about circular business, we need to make the experience stronger than the linear business. We need to bring more value in the circular business beyond sustainability itself, because we know that customers are super demanding.
That relates to the next question on the list. Does the design team have the remit to influence the business model and reduce the creation of so many products and focus on diversifying revenue into services?
It's I think it's a collaboration with business. Creative teams create exploration, utopia scenarios. Then we speak with business, and the idea is that together we can start to act where we feel there is an opportunity and space for it. So Decathlon is very collaborative. It's not like a design team and then beside business teams. The way it works is project groups. So project group is an engineer, a designer, and a product manager together. And so they have their own budget, they have their product line, and they can decide for themselves how they build the business. And then all those project teams are connected together. And of course, we have like more transversal systems to help them to work together. So it's not designed against the rest of the world. It's all together thing.
Okay. I'm just going to take one last question, which I think is quite a punchy one. Great to see a design team driving this. Were you told, forced, or volunteered?
I think the three. Sometimes, of course, we get from top management questions, and sometimes we're pushing on business because we see things coming, or I think what's unique for designers is the capacity to transform a coffee machine idea into a visual that everyone can align in front of. And so we have an advanced design team where the definition of that team is to visualize ideas in order that everyone can align on the same concept. And so we'd like to sometimes raise questions and visualize them, and sometimes we get questions from the management saying like, guys, how would you act there? Because we need you to act. And on the what I share on the methodology of the offer analysis, the question is very simple. Is last year we had like 2,000 people working to reduce by approximately 5% the CO2 footprint. Can we go faster, and can we make it cheaper? And then is how do we analyze the thing? How do we highlight the project that has the most potential to impact fast at a lower cost? So, yeah, it's both sides.
It's a great story and one that is unfinished. So thanks for telling us and sharing the story so far, Charles. Thank you.
Thank you very much.